See, this is coming off really easy, which is good because it'll make cutting the replacements piece so much easier if I can get this off as a template. And that's what I did last time I cut my hands. Way easier than I thought this was going to be so far. I used very little glue on this, just at the very edges. So, mental note. That came off beautifully. This is huge. This can be used as a template for the new material. Wow, that's great. Kind of exciting because I think this is going to be, these two panels are going to be my first keepers. They won't have to be redone, but I'm going to do them right the first time. That's what I think. All that yellow is just glue residue. The surface face is relatively smooth, except where the foam had a lot of glue on it up here. Especially these will have to get sanded down. That'll get sanded down. But these are going to be a lot less labor intensive than I thought they were going to be, because really this will clean up very quickly. And the only amount of time I'll be spending cleaning is along that top face. So yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, folks. This is the tunnel cover. There's two of them, one on the left side, one on the right side. I believe this is the left-hand side. So this would be, the driver's seat would be located here, and the front of the car would be facing here. And if you remember what this looked like, it looked awful. I stripped it down. I covered it in foam. This is the other one. This other one's getting covered now. Covered it in foam and then stretched my material over it. And I'm super happy with the way this came out. 98% of it, except right there. You can see like a mottled imperfection right there. You could see it in here. I posted to the forums and they told me that the glue I was using melted the foam underneath, and when I stuck to it, it's passing through the fact that the foam is a little uneven. So is it a keeper? I don't know yet. It's it looks really, really good. Even the back side, I took my time on the back, and if you remember my other panel, what it looked like, I really did a much better job on this one. You could see the old glue from the Lotus. That's not even for me. I don't know. It probably is for me. So I can clean this up a little more. But I'm really happy with the way the material is sitting. There's the bracket that I riveted on after I took it off, wire wheeled it and cleaned it up and then painted it. The material's not loose anywhere. It's really taut. Again, it looks really, really good. So from my opinion, from this point to here, it looks really professional. And then here, it's a bit mottled. Now, some of this you're not going to see. This is where the map pocket is in the back of the car, and it's going to cover this, but it won't cover this, and the seat will cover this, but I haven't decided if I'm going to keep this or not. I might rip it off and redo it and chalk it up as a learning experience. But yeah, everywhere else it came out really, really nice. And this was the first piece I've done where I felt like I was getting it, like I was understanding what had to be done. So to be decided if I keep this one. So where does that leave me now? So this is the other panel, and this is what it looks like before the leather goes on. It's basically a foam. And on that one, right over here is where the glue that I put in this valley ate into the material, and that's why it has that uneven appearance to it. Before I can cover this one, though, further, I have to fix this crack. All right, see that? That's broken. Let's see from the back side. Lotus number. Okay, that is where this bracket gets riveted to, like so. Just like that. But obviously, before I pass the rivet through that hole and into this, I've got to fix the broken piece. So how am I going to fix that? Probably with overkill. How I'm going to fix this is I bought a heat gun, which allows you to melt it into the plastic. Once it's halfway through, you stop, and you've just joined the cracked piece with a metal staple, basically. After I do that, I will take this JB Weld plastic bonder, put it on the back side right here, and you can see I've already scored up the surface to make it rough. First I cleaned it with alcohol, and then I scored it with a razor blade. So I'll put the JB Weld all over here, and then I'm going to put a backing plate, which will get riveted in, I think like this, just like that. So I will have a metal stitch tying these two pieces together. I'll have JB Weld covering it, and then I'll have this piece of plastic that I got off Amazon. I bought a sheet of it and already drilled the holes through it. This will get stuck to basically adhered to the backside, and then the rivets passing through will even hold it even more. So yeah, I gotta believe that'll be plenty strong enough, if not stronger than without it, before it was even cracked. This will not interfere with anything because the bracket that goes on here gets riveted to the top side. It gets riveted up here, not below it. So there's nothing that this piece of plastic that I'm going to weld to it won't interfere with how the panel sits on the car or how it affects the bracket. So first up, let's try welding our first piece of plastic. So here's my heat gun. I have no idea how long it takes to get hot, so I'm going to try this on a scrap piece of plastic first. Whoa, smoking already. Oh, it's red hot already. I don't know if you can see that. That's hot. So I don't need to experiment with it. All right, so again, the crack is right there, and I'm gonna bond it like this, I think. Burning plastic. There we go. That went a lot easier than I thought it would. So let's see if we can see this. There you can see the metal stitches in the plastic. Shoot. I almost pushed it through. Shoot. I don't know if you can see this edge is raised because the bracket actually melted partially through. Normally wouldn't be a problem, except I'm going to be putting my piece of plastic Band-Aid over here on it, and that will interfere with it. So that tells me we got to cut this back. If it's just, wow, that went deep. I can tell you this much: this is already considerably stronger. It's not moving independently whatsoever. So not perfect. It's still a bit raised, and I think that might actually, yeah, that might be where it actually pushed through all the way. But it's nice and coarse and rough, so it'll just provide extra adhesion for the Bondo, the epoxy, and my piece of plastic, which is what I'm going to do now. So now I'm going to spread some epoxy on this piece. I will then fit it onto here, like so, and then I'll rivet it through here, and the rivets will hold the bracket on, will hold this backing plate on, and allow the epoxy to set up. All right, now it's just mixing this up. So our clamps come in handy. So this is going to sit like so. This bracket. Oh shoot! I forgot to cut the metal off. Damn it. Goes like goes in there. That's one down. The other one. So the epoxy sets up all the way. There we go. Epoxy's still gooey. That's good. There we go. Through to the plastic. There you go. So you can see the washer on the back side. And now when I tighten the rivet down, it should hold it in place. Okay. Those are both seated really nice. Little extra precaution. I'm going to put another rivet right there, because there's absolutely no reason to not be safe. I got some epoxy in my fingers and I can feel it starting to get tacky, so get this one in just in time. Backing plate. Okay. So there's the new bracket, or the cleaned up bracket, riveted down with epoxy. Here's the backing plate. The epoxy, you can see, is sandwiching out a little bit, squeezing out a little bit. But even if there was no epoxy, there's 3 rivets now holding this piece together, including the one that holds the bracket. And the bracket itself will provide additional support. So I have no doubt that this will hold. This is really firm. There's no flex. Cut that down a little bit. So tomorrow what I'll do is I'll go out and wire wheel these little nubs down just to make sure that they don't come in contact with any of the material, even though this is just this gets covered anyway, you won't see it, but better safe than sorry. So now probably glue this down after I grind these little nubs down. Glue that down, cut the excess off. That's what this is, all excess. This gets cut off, and then the leather will go over it, and hopefully this one will come out better than the last one. And I'm very happy with 98% of the last one, except for this spot in here. I'm going to try a different glue in this container to see if it's got enough holding power to adhere to the leather and not damage the foam on the underside. If you're wondering why it didn't damage the rest of it, it's because it wasn't glued anywhere else. It was only glued here because this is a valley, and when you stretch the material, if you pull the material this way, it's going to want to pull up like this and pull away from the thing. So pull away from this valley. So the idea was to put glue in the valley so that if when I did fold it around the edges and I pulled a little taut, it wouldn't release and pop up. So that's that. Another alternative is to, from what I was told, is to stretch it this way. So you're pulling it taut this way and you're pulling it taut that way, and here you're just using it to cover the material, which that might be even the better way to do it. That's it for now. All right, so the 2 tunnel covers are done, and definitely one is a keeper, this one, and maybe this one as well. This one has a little sort of modeled indented area that I discussed earlier. I learned from this one, used that on this one, and it came out absolutely perfect. 100% happy with it. There's nothing about the front. This is a A+, not even an A. I wouldn't say this is an A or an A-. This is an A+. If all my panels come out this good, I'm happy. Really, no complaints on this whatsoever. So the backside is a B. It works. I would say it's on par with what came off the car when I was stripping the panels. I mean, that's what it looked like. It doesn't have to be super neat, but the guys that I follow on YouTube that do this sort of stuff are just immaculate with the backs and the fronts, and that's something that's a place I'd like to get to eventually. I'm not there yet. It's much harder than it looks to get this to wrap properly and not show the seams on the front. As you can see, the old brackets were cleaned up, painted, primed, painted, and here's the new hardware. So this panel is 100% ready to go. This panel, the first one I did, same deal, 100% ready to go, assuming I keep it. But you can see that the material adhered to the foam a little improperly, I would say. I might still hit it with a heat gun to see if maybe some of that'll come out, but it's not worth redoing at this point. I may, when I finish the car, get to a point where everything else came out like this panel did, where in my opinion it came out perfectly, and I want it to be perfect, so I'll come back and redo this. But for now, I'm going to consider this a keeper. New material, new hardware, cleaned up hardware, yeah, and foam and everything looks good. I used Chemical Brothers leather cleaner and leather conditioner. I have both of these for the leather and my Abora, and I used it on this, and it even has that new car leather smell. So really excited about this. This one had a crack when I was stretching the material over it. I could see a crack forming right here. So what I did is I bought a plastic weld kit from China, of course, and basically it's just a soldering iron, and you melt pieces of plastic onto the old crack and into the old crack. So it's nice and firm. It worked out well, and I'm going to need that coming up for the next piece, which I'm going to do. because that next piece, I'll show you that. Now I have to be careful with these because they're like new. I don't want to damage them. So coming up next is the piece. Let's see. That's the center armrest. The shift, the hole for the shift. There's no stitching on this whatsoever except for the boot. The boot I'll do last. So I'm gonna basically strip this down, take it apart, see what I can keep. This material is just gross. I'll separate this top pad from this plastic piece and probably rivet it down again. I'm gonna have to find a new piano hinge for the back of it. You know, probably any hardware store will have one that'll work, but I wouldn't mind trying to find the actual Lotus one. There's the switch for the gas tank. I'm assuming this is for the gas tanks left and right. And the fact that it clicks is a good sign. Doesn't guarantee it works, but it does mean that at least it's not physically broken. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 little rivets that, or they're not actually, they're like push pins that have to, you just gotta bend them back. Yeah, so you can see those sort of metal push pins right there. I'm gonna save those, reuse those. The switch, it's gonna come out. This is where I'm gonna use the plastic welding kit again, but I will weld. I will likely cut out a rectangle here and a rectangle here and use this to fill in that rectangle and weld it back in. Not 100% certain about that yet. I don't know. I'll have to, game time decision, I guess. The gaiter, shift gaiter, take these nuts off and probably do the gaiter as well. That's going to be a little challenging because it involves stitching, but we'll see. Give it a go. The rest of it, I'm thinking I'll separate this out. This panel will come out. This pocket will come out. This will come off, and that'll leave just this plastic piece. Oh, and drill the base of the piano hinge. Drill that off, so it's just this plastic piece. I'll put the leather on it. I'll put foam. I'll put leather on it. Then this gets set into it, and then I can work on the rest of it. So, coming up next on the list. And then it'll be great because I can actually start putting the panels together, you know, in my living room on the floor or something, but just to see how it's coming together. I'm again, super happy with the way these came out. And that makes me excited to work on this because I think this is going to be a piece that will, you know, has some complexity to it. But the stretching of the material should be relatively straightforward. But I've thought that before. We'll see. Before I get to costs, one thing I want to mention is that I'm using a thinner foam than what was used by Lotus on the original panels. The foam I removed was 1/2 inch thick, and on these two panels I instead used 1/4 inch thick. Why? I think I'm going for a slightly tighter aesthetic when it comes to the surface of these panels, and I think using a slightly thinner foam will give it a more modern look and feel, but I could be wrong and this could be a complete disaster. I guess time will tell. So when it comes to material costs, what I did was I determined my cost per square inch of material. So the leather, the foam, figured out what I paid for, the roll that I got, and how many square inches are in the roll. And then I took each piece and measured it to get the number of square inches, adding about 1/3 to it to account for excess and waste. And I come up with a cost per square inch and then spread that out across the total number of square inches per piece. And I get a cost. For the Napatech leather, the size of the leather I used for each piece is roughly 38 inches by 17 inches for a total square inch area of about 646 inches. I then multiplied that times the 2.979 cents per square inch to get a cost of $19.24 for each panel. So times two, I spent about $38.48 in leather material for both panels. For the pink backing foam, the 38 inch by 17 inch squared area times the approximate cost per square inch of foam, which was 0.00760, comes out to $5.01. So times two is 10.02. For the two bolts, M6, 38 cents each times two is 76 cents. The washers, 18 cents times two is 36. And the raw nut is $1.40 times two for 2.80. Finally, the hardware, spray paint, rivets, washers, lock weld glue, backing plastic and epoxy plastic weld. I estimate about $3.92 times two is $7.84. The grand total for the two panels comes to $60.26, bringing the total cost of the project up to $5,301.03. So $60.26 for two panels seems like a really good deal. The frustration level is much higher than the number would figure, and that's why I think upholstery costs so much to have done. It's a lot of labor. If you don't do every single step of it right, there's a good chance you're going to have to throw that piece out, and so it can be very costly. Definitely a learning process. Okay, that's it for this video. The next one, I start taking that center console arm rest apart and cover that. Thanks so much for following along. I'll see you next time.